We return to the ballroom section for the concluding lecture of this afternoon, and not one individual lecturer, but a couple this time. As amateur competitors, they were former world champions, and as professionals, British national professional ballroom champions. I did inquire as to the title of their lecture this afternoon, but until a short while ago, they were undecided. So I can't tell you what it's going to be about. The only thing I can tell you, it's going to be good. Please welcome Kenny and Marion Welsh.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we actually start, I would like to thank the BDFI for the invitation, and I'm going to kill them the next time I see them, because I'm standing here. Actually, you are very overpowering, all sitting there this afternoon, so I hope I can make everything as clear as I possibly can, and if I can't, then you won't book any lessons. Yes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't sure what to call this lecture. I have so many different ideas, as my wife will sort of corroborate, that I change my mind constantly. And the same happens when I'm dancing. I never stick to a routine. My wife said to me, "What sort of choreography do you wish to dance?" I said, "I've got an idea." And 5 minutes later, I changed it. Even when I dance competitions, I never stuck to a routine. I danced a team match at Blackpool one year, a quick step, and Marion said to me, "That was very nice, dear. Whose choreography was that?" So, if I was to give you a routine this evening, I would not be able to stick to it. I would just change it completely. But hopefully, as David was saying about the Latin, it would be founded on principles that we love in our ballroom dancing. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go for it. Artistry in dance. Sounds impressive, huh? But then trying to find a definition for this. So I get into my textbooks. The natural skill or its application guided by principles. Now this is too clever for me, so then I had to study a little bit more. If I take principles, what are principles? Again, the definition is the technique founded by the values we give natural movement. So then, what is natural skill? What is the word natural when we're dancing? Two expressions come to mind for myself. You have a natural dancer, and you have someone who dances naturally, or dance naturally. So what is the difference, in my opinion? A natural dancer has the inherent ability, with skill, talent, flair, knack, whatever, to coordinate physical movement. But to dance naturally is what somebody must expect to see. Question mark. What would you expect to see? And this is what I would like to take further into what we're going to talk about this evening. So, there are many, I think, natural dancers in our competition world. Some fabulous natural dancers, but not so many, I believe, who dance naturally. So, where does that take us? Excuse me, my throat is dry. Where does that take us? When we're competition dancing, we have to, one of the biggest objectives we have is to perform. Now, perform. There are different areas that we can use with our dancing for performance. But to come back to the artistic part and the natural part, where does it all begin? So for most of you, and the adjudicators who are there, it begins with the appearance. Now, the appearance is what? The hold, the look? However would you describe that? I have to look at my notes. Pause. The appearance. Correct posture, allowing maximum control of artistic development, relating to the shape of body and head movement. So, what does that mean? It means we have to have a correct posture, we have to develop the shape in order to perform to the best of our ability, and that the overall look is going to have a positive effect on the head position. And then we have the arms. How many of you, I know myself, but how many of you spend hours, weeks, months, years trying to get your arms in the correct position? And then you go for a lesson, excuse me, you go for a lesson and the teacher comes up and says, there you go, do that. And you think, great, 2 seconds, he's done it, and it's taken me 5 years. So all of these areas take a long time to develop. They are not just a muscular, physical development they do. So to go into the presentation of what we do first, I would like now to develop the ideas of the natural movement. Now Marion has agreed to help me on this lecture. It has been many years, well actually 2 years, but really many years before that we have actually practiced. And the divorce papers, I think, are still on the sideboard until I get home, and then maybe it will change. So, first of all, I'll just put my notes down. Can I have some water, please, Greg? Thank you. Great. So first of all, the head. It is on the top of the body. It is standing in a nice position. It can be to the left. It can be to the right. Why? Have you ever thought about that? Why do we stick it left? Why do we stick it right? Every time I ask this question sometimes to my pupils, they give me some natural physics explanation and sort of Pythagorean's theorem and all this sort of jazz about why this should move. But basically, what you have is a body position, which is going to develop the look of a closed position, in which case there must be a presentation of the body, so therefore the head will set up that presentation. And anatomically, that is connected internally through the body and can develop, can develop, can develop, can develop, can develop. But it still hasn't got to the physical part that I don't particularly like in ballroom dancing these days, where the lady comes in, lady marries their man, because as soon as the movement happens, the man's arm is broken. So, we can say, what is a promenade position? It's an open position. How do we present it? The head will rotate and say, look, this is a promenade position. We have a closed position. The head will turn and say, look, this is the presentation of a closed position. Very, very simple. And it can be developed. Okay, how would the lady know that I would like the head to change? Now, most of you are all aware of the word CBM, contra body movement, and I tend to use it a lot when I'm teaching, but maybe I over-exaggerate with it, because I have my young kids coming into me saying, I don't get it. What's all of this rotary stuff going on here? I just don't get it. And perhaps I exaggerate it, but what I try to do is make sure that if I want the lady to open the head, the use of my back, the rotation of the back, gives her the information to develop whatever we would like the lady to follow with us. Now, the lady can also do the same to me. So, if I'm just standing tango position, and I do a back quartet, and then the lady does a presentation, para, it gets a bit of stress in there, and now I've thought, this is going to be my step. I'm going to be a flower for once. Okay, for once. So therefore, I'm going to ask the ladies to give me some information. So if Marion starts to rotate her back, I can say, ooh, ah. Yes, yes, and into a movement. So we can now coordinate our energies if we are putting it through in the correct way. Another point is really when we are setting up our position, how many positions do we have? Because we have very complex routines. And very simply, we're in a closed position. If we tend to walk over here, we're in an open position. Oops. Okay, so we try that again. We are standing in a closed position. If we just walk over here, we are now in an open position. But the body is still rotated and parallel to each other within its structure. So essentially we have two positions. But then we have variants on those two positions. So I could be in a closed position, forward and backwards. I could be in a movement outside a partner, but it's still in a closed position. I could be in a movement on partner's left side. Oops, in another position. So now if we take a promenade position, basically it's the same. It's open, going forward. It's open, going backwards. And whiskey. Not a lot of difference. So very, very simply, we are making our movements clear, hopefully in a natural way, not stressing ourselves out with how the body should look in certain movements. Now, the next part would be the feet. Because wherever we move, the feet should be guiding us as to where we go, is my belief. Okay, so we can walk forward. If I wish to change that direction, I can do so by turning the feet. It's not an ideal situation, because in a competitive mode, this would be a little bit abrupt. So therefore, what I did before with the CBM for the head of the lady, I can then use it as an indication to change the feet. So again, what we can do is allow natural movement with each other's body without killing each other. Okay, so now we've gone through the structure, a vertical structure of the posture. I haven't told you actually how to do that because we don't have long enough, but what they relate to. And it's your job then, I guess, guys, to go out and find out from the teachers how you do that. Now, we then have to put all of this together. So, for example, when does my wife or does Marion open her head? I know we could say, my partner's going to tell me. How am I going to tell her? I know what to tell her, but how am I going to do it? Now we have body weight, gravity, foot pressure. How do all of those things relate? What we do is we communicate with the floor. What communicates with the floor? Are the feet. And depending on what part of the leg that the feet work, will depend on what type of impulse or information I will give to my partner. So, for example, if I go to a promenade position, I can give Marion information for the head, but when, if I straighten the hip joint slightly, she now has an impulse. I can then finish that movement off by rising to the toe. Clear? If I want to move out of a promenade position, this is the tricky bit. I would like my wife to know when we're going to go. So again, rising to the hip, moving the leg. I can lower through the left heel. So you can feel the gravity, the weight. This is the moment, this is the impulse that we're going to go. Now it can be developed into counterbalances, but at the end of the day, it still is what is standing on the floor that's going to be there to catch you. And if it's not in position, and it's not there in time, you fall. And other things happen. The same thing would happen with the preparation step. In fact, a tango link, for instance. This is a good one. If I want Marion's head to open, I've got a step. I've now got the head to open, but I've got to indicate that moment. So if I flex the knee, yes, yes, and ha, bang. Is that good? So, these days, it's a little bit difficult for me to throw Marion around. We have sort of developed in our stature over the years, and it's not so easy to pick each other up and throw them around anymore. Therefore, it's important that these sort of applications come through. Okay? If I take a 5-step in tango, 1, 2, 3, stop. Indication. I want the head to open. There we go. And actually, what I didn't tell you, something I forgot. Who is going to open? Is it going to be the wife? Or is it going to be me? And the answer is yes. Because depending on which way we're moving and where I am, if I take a 5-step into the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm already in position for the promenade. Marion is not. So therefore, she will be doing the opening through the technique, of course. Huh? Okay. Those papers are looking pretty big at the moment. Okay. So, impulse, information, Marion, then I twist the head, open the hips, bang. And 2. Next movement. So, in this instance, Marion opened. But remember, I like to be a flower as well. So if I do a 5-step into the center of the floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, Marion's already in position. All she has to do is change her head. So I get a chance. Not yet. I've got to flex the knee first. Thank you. And into the next movement. So, all of this now we can start to play with each other. If we take a chassé to the side, and nobody's in position for a promenade that way. So then I start the indication to the impulse, preparation, use the head position, flex the knee, information, and back. Both of us. We'll then begin to open. Okay, so far so good. Now I've got to decide how big is my step going to be. Because I have to apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do a little bit of dancing in a moment. And I've had my hair cut. And unfortunately, there is no resistance anymore. So I move too much. So I'm going to have to hold myself back. I hope you appreciate that, okay? So when we want to move, I want my wife to move back. How big is that step? Well, if I let the body weight move to the foot here, she can move the foot as well, but I'm not really in control of how far that is actually going. So, what I want to do is indicate with the knee. Foot is now starting to work. CBM saying, please, please. No. I want to be in control. Please. I'm a control freak. Ah. Now, that is not through pushing. She is now starting to like that. I can then take my knee forward into that movement, into the next step. So, all of these things coming together, hopefully, I'm still creating natural movements of the joints, not allowing my body weight to fall onto the lady, but giving sufficient information to the lady to have a reaction and a response, and sometimes for the lady to give me an action and a response. Baby, baby. Okay? I'd like to do a couple of little combinations at the moment, but I forgot my routines. Told you I'd forget my routines. I did something. Somewhere. Never mind, I'll make it up. There we go. So, pivots. Now, when we do a natural turn, for instance, there are a lot of combinations going on here. For instance, if I'm going into the natural turn here, lady's moving back, I'm telling her how far she has to move back, and then I'm swinging the left leg forward. Now I know the technique says commence, quarter and an eighth. It's very difficult to think of that when you're in the middle of a swing going forward. So from here I continue and allow the turn to happen coming out of the right foot. So then I can put that together, swing the left leg past, and then into spin. Oh, that's a natural turn. So we've actually changed position with each other. We haven't just stood in front of each other. I haven't gone around my partner. What I've done is actually change position. And my partner can do the same to me. And we have two combinations in a way, like a running spin turn and an open natural turn. And they're really two different animals. But the amount of competitors these days that sort of mix the two together is wonderful. So when we take a running spin, not a running spin turn, silly, a running spin turn. Okay? Yes, it is. So you've got two pivots and a movement into a hover going backwards. Now pivots, as far as I know, don't sway. Because if you're standing on your hip, on your leg, sorry, and your hip starts to change direction or pivot, has a tendency to fall over. Now you might survive solo, but I'm sure your partner has great difficulty in surviving with it. So pivots generally do not have a sway, but they do have shapes. So it compensates a little bit. So when we come to a running spin turn, the amount of sort of sway and shapes I'm getting into something is not really a very natural movement for me. Very performance orientated, but not a natural movement. Not something that adheres to the principles or the values that we give to the movement, which is two pivots to the hover. So what would happen from here is two pivots. I step onto the left foot to hover. I can then develop the shape if I wish, and then into a side lock or whatever into the next step. If I do one pivot with an open natural turn, now I can develop the rock and roll, similar to what we just did with the natural turn. So, from here, I pivot, develop the shape, then it can go into a chassé roll, into the next step. But it's a different animal, and it has a different effect, and possibly the effect with what is going to follow afterwards. We're running out of time. Let's take a little bit of tango. Link. Not yet. Going to talk you through it first. So, from here, step, flexing the information. She goes, ha, ha, lock, forward, ha, tika, yaka, taka, ta, ha, yaka, ha. Okay, so. But although I don't really know what's going on there, I do, I think. because it's still founded by where the leg positions are going, where the body weight is, what information I could give my partner. And if you just go through a performance where it's stuck, pitch shape, and no harmony with each other, then the artistic values don't come out. You've been an overpowering audience when I first came on, but you're actually very lovely. And I do appreciate your kind applause. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to help me. Thank my wife. She's not had the great years. But she's coming through. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.